Hi, I'm Ember. Welcome back to Cocktail Cooking. Today we're going to be working with a cocktail that's brewed in Jamaica. Talk about tropical. It is delicious on its own, but I'm going to show you how to step it up one little notch. Be sure to check me out on Instagram at ember.23. Let's get started. So we're gonna first start out with our mustard. Not just any mustard, beer mustard. I mean, if you're gonna be a mustard, why not be that one? So what I'm gonna start us out with is actually mustard powder. Couple of different things. Mustard is very flexible. Whatever that you prefer, you can put in here. I'm gonna use powder because I don't actually like the texture of seeds. You are welcome to use mustard seed. If you do, I would suggest crushing them and putting them within, like mixing them in so that that flavor breaks up into it. I'm gonna do a full tablespoon. And then I'm gonna put this away because I tend to over mustard my mustard. And I'm gonna put all the dries in that I want. So parsley, I love myself some parsley, a little fresh flavor. And I'm only gonna put a couple sprinkles in of that. Turmeric here, I'm gonna use about half a tablespoon. Okay, I'm not gonna overdo the turmeric because if we do, that flavor is gonna really be overpowering, and we wanna make sure the mustard comes out of that. The beer is really going to mesh all of it together. It's gonna combine it into one sauce. I'm not looking for a really thick mustard either, so that's also nice that we can kind of control that in our own kitchen. I'm gonna do just a couple turns of regular old pepper, a little sprinkle of salt, and I am going to do a full tablespoon of honey. You gotta be sweet, right? I mean, I'm pretty sweet, but you need a little extra. So a full tablespoon of honey. Okay, and then we're gonna add the best part, the beer. Now I want a 1/4 cup of beer. I don't know if you know, but a 1/4 cup is actually 1 full shot of beer. There you go. I'm also a bartender. So 1 full shot or the cup. I'm gonna use the shot. I think that's probably the better choice. And the beer that I'm using, I promised you I was gonna be using something that's brewed in Jamaica. This is the Red Stripe beer. It's one of my absolute favorite beers. And I still don't know if this is because of the flavor or because it is the memory of mine in the tropics with the palm trees and some of my best friends. Shout out to Chevenise and all the others in Jamaica. Miss you every time this time of year. See, I'm currently in the snow, right? Snow deep drifts and thinking about palm trees and Red Stripe beer. This is the closest I can come. So I'm just blending these together. This is gonna create just your baseline for your mustard. Now we do have to add one more thing, and that is the distilled vinegar. So a trick with mustard is however strong you want it to be, this is the moment to decide that. So if you want it to be a more mellow flavor, a more mellow taste, you could just let this sit anywhere up to like 10 minutes. And then when you put that distilled vinegar in, that kind of activates it. So that'll be the flavor it wants to stay at. I'm gonna go ahead and keep it a very strong flavor. So I'm gonna add my spilling of spices. I'm gonna add just half a shot, which is 2 tablespoons of distilled vinegar. And I'm gonna slowly pour this in as I stir it in. Not really a science here, whatever you prefer. And then what's gonna happen after I mix this is we are actually gonna refrigerate this for up to 12 hours. Okay, there it is. Very simple. It's gonna be a runny mixture. We're gonna go ahead and toss this into the fridge, 12 full hours. Okay, in the fridge. And now we drink for 12 hours. Well, I gotta clear off the cutting board, I mean. Okay, so we're gonna dive right back into the next thing, which are lazy potatoes. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually turn on the oven to 350. Okay, now that that's preheating, I'm gonna clear off some of the stuff that I am not using. Better keep that shot glass close though. And we're gonna grab our potatoes. So the fact that I love lazy potatoes is that it's super simple. You just toss it in a pan, season it, and then it bakes on its own while you're doing everything else that you need to prepare your meal. And that to me is lazy, along with the beer. It's a fun job, this cooking. So what I'm gonna start with is actually cutting the potatoes. You can cut them in any way, shape, form you want to. If you wanna do stars, circles, live your dreams. Now, I've wiped a few of these down. What I'm gonna do is actually use a variety of colors. You guys know by now that I love colors. I like that plate to really pop. So I'm gonna pick out a few of the ones I wanna use. And I'm gonna actually just cut them in quarters. These are pretty small. Those can just be in halves, but you can tell when you get to the bigger ones, you can probably cut those in quarters. That's gonna be a really good shape for what we're doing. Okay, now that we have them cut, I really like that color. We've got purples, we've got reds, we've got yellows. I'm gonna actually toss them in the pan right now, and then we'll drizzle our toppings. Yeah, be lazy about it. I need a beer in one hand. Okay, so we're gonna do olive oil. I love my olive oil. And we're just gonna do a heavy drizzle because I want it to coat. It's gonna be baking in the oven for about 30 minutes. So you wanna make sure they have enough protection during that 30 minutes. Parsley, because we're purty. And I love rosemary. I'm actually gonna put some rosemary on here. Keep in mind, I have actually had several situations where I found people are allergic to rosemary. Be really cautious about what you're cooking with. I myself am very allergic to mushrooms. The weirdest allergy ever. People think I'm kidding, I'm not. So just make sure you're aware, you're warning your guests what you're cooking with. I mean, tell them all about the alcohol, they'll come running, but. A little bit of salt. I did my normal pepper. And I sprinkled it right in there, don't do that. And then I'm actually gonna use nature's seasonings. I use this a lot, I really love it. It's like the quick response to when you're seasoning something and you don't wanna open 7 different containers like onion and onion powder and garlic powder and all of these. I'm doing this on top of my fresh herbs. I shouldn't say fresh. We'll deal with fresh herbs next time. But I do think that it's something that helps get the flavor going in there. And then I'm gonna bring this up to my cutting board so I can spin them around. Now I am gonna pick on my little brother a little bit here. We are cooking in his house again. Thanks, bro. But the bad thing is that he seems to be out of tin foil. So usually lazy potatoes, you can mix this all up, throw it in some tin foil, and then pop it in the oven. We're gonna do this in a pan. It's not gonna hurt them at all. It actually might crisp them up a little bit more. And if you wanted to, you could put some like Parmesan cheese on top when you're done. Oh, it'd be so good. Okay, yeah. Actually, I wonder what it'd be like to throw some beer on these. Should we do it? We're gonna do it. I mean, it's Jamaican beer. It can't go bad. So we're gonna test this out. Let's do a shot of beer for the potatoes. One for you, maybe off camera. Take a break. And we're gonna see how this turns out. Now I'm really interested. Okay, we're gonna see. This is a little experimenting. Okay, there's some foam in there. I like it. And we're gonna pop this right into the oven. I can't cover it with tin foil. Sometimes I would do that. Now the oven is not heated up yet. That's okay. These are cooking for a long enough amount of time that I don't need to wait for that. I'm gonna set the timer. Bam. Okay, so then we're gonna wait for 30 minutes. How we're gonna know if they're done is if they're browning a little bit and you can poke them with a fork or a knife and the knife just slides clean out. That is perfect, tender potatoes. Great, okay, that means our potatoes are done. We can take those out of the oven. Oh, that smells good. Now while we're down here, I'm gonna use a knife to show you what I mean. See how tender that is? It just sucks right in. Just falls right off. We'll take one of the bigger ones. I'm hardly pushing at all. Falls right off. That's a lazy potato. So we're gonna pull these out. bring it to the stove top. And now we can let these cool because they are ready to be plated. That's how easy. That's why it's lazy. Okay, so we are back. Now, because we are making a beer mustard Sammie, or sandwich, that's gonna be the fancy term, is Sammie. The Le Cordon Bleu side of me is showing you how to make a sandwich. That's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to open a package of bacon. I know, it seems so simple, but I wanna make sure people know this. And plus, this is for my brother-in-law. He's gonna love this so much. It started out when I was younger. It was just easier to give everybody a piece if you cut the bacon in half. And I have now taken that with me in life as how it fits in the pan. Thanks, Ma. I'm doing applewood bacon because it's actually gonna go really well with like the honey that I put in the mustard. So I'm kind of pairing that together. We're just gonna cook a few of these here, and you have two different halves here. Would you want the meatier half? Do you want the fattier half? Live your dreams. And I'm gonna move this over to the stove. So we're gonna just lay out maybe 6 of these, I think would be good. And I've heated the pan up to medium. I don't want it to go crazy. You know, 5 fits better. I'm gonna do 5. Okay, it's going really good now. We're making sure the entire pan is hot. Now I do want to keep this bacon as flat as possible because it's going to be going in a sandwich. So that might mean that I'm flipping it more times as I'm cooking it. That's okay. Definitely smells like applewood. Smells really good. So I'm just going to try to keep it an even cook so we don't get that curling that normally happens. You could also weight it down. That's a really good way to cook bacon in a flat manner. Okay, it's starting to brown around the edges there, so I am gonna flip it again. Looking great. Very nice. We should have a ruling on whether we like crispy or not crispy bacon. I am a not crispy. I want it wiggly. Okay, we're gonna flip it again. Looking great. See how they're staying flat? That's how you do it. You really have to babysit it, but I think it's worth it when you get to the sandwich phase. That's looking really good. Just a few more minutes. Okay, I'm liking the smell of that. Now that, to me, that is a good piece of bacon. I really like my chewy bacon. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these off the stove. Just checking every side to make sure they're even. They are, they look great. Shutting off the stove, and we're gonna put it over here on this paper towel, just because we wanna make sure the runoff is on the paper towel and not on our sandwich. We're saving the sauce to be that mustard on our sandwich. Okay. Now this left in the pan, it's smoky, it's hot still. What I wanna do is warm up the ham and the pepperoni in this pan. If there's too much oil, sometimes I'll dab it with a paper towel. I think we're looking really good. Okay, so I've just put the pan off of the stovetop that's hot so that it's not gonna smoke all that grease up into the air. I'm gonna set my bacon aside, which we can put in a bag for a rainy day when I need a treat. And I'm gonna dive into this honey ham. I think that honey ham is really gonna pair well with the honey and the mustard. Again, very good choice. And this is just sandwich meat. I'm not going crazy, I'm not being extra fancy. I'm probably gonna pull out maybe 4 slices, and that's gonna be what I'm gonna heat up in the pan. And then I will also dive into this pepperoni. So this is uncured pepperoni. That's usually what I prefer. The difference between cured and uncured is simply the packaging part of the pepperoni. So whether you're using chemicals or different kinds of acids to try to preserve that meat, or if you're using salts and seasonings. So uncured is salts and seasonings. That's usually what I prefer. I'm all about the seasonings, which I'm sure you guys are aware. So I'm gonna pull out, looks like 4 of them. That is beautiful to me. We're gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna use these meats in the pan just to give them a little bit of flavor. Okay, so we're using the same pan from the bacon, nice and warm, and I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a sear here. And it does not have to be perfect. And I don't wanna leave it long at all because it's gonna heat up real quick. You saw how thin these were. This is adding an extra layer to your sandwich. So we could definitely do raw ham. There's not a problem with that at all, but we wanna make sure that we're getting the most out of this sandwich. So I'm giving it my all. Okay, and then once I think it's warmed up through, I'm gonna add this to the meat pile. Looks really good. Okay, and then we'll do the same to the pepperoni. Now the pepperoni, we're honestly just warming it. We don't want to cook it too long either. Now with pepperoni being a fattier meat, it's gonna take longer to heat up. It's more in there. You can see the edges bubbling like that. Looks really good. Okay, now we have our flavored meats. Done. Okay, so now I'm gonna prep up part of the sandwich that goes inside of it so we are ready to make it on the pans. I'm into hot sandwiches. I think that's a good way to go. So I have a couple different kinds of cheeses here. I have hard cheddar and pepper jack. I really like that little bit of bite, but I never want too much. I'm very picky. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a couple of pickles here, and we're gonna slice them because I think that's probably gonna be the better choice for a long, thick sandwich. We can actually slice the pickles the long ways. Now I am actually, speaking about how picky I am about my pickles, I don't like pickles that are already cut in the jar because this is a vinegar brine that they sit in, and that's kind of how the cucumber changes into a pickle. Let me just take the historical travels back. But the vinegar then gets too far inside of the pickle and then it causes it to be too much of a bite, in my opinion. Again, your kitchen, your creation. So here I get the choice in how much vinegar is inside that pickle. So I'm just gonna slice up a few of these. Perfect. And now I'm ready for my sandwich making days. So we're gonna set that aside. I'm gonna get my loaf of bread. Cut a couple of good slices here. This is actually a garlic minced loaf of bread. I want to layer it and I want a thick sandwich. So I'm going to cut right from the center and I'll leave the butt ends of the bread for my brother. That's the thank you for using your house. And then we'll bring this over to the stove top where I'll show you how to heat up and really toast up that bread nice in the pan. Okay, so I'm gonna give it that shot and a half of olive oil. I am gonna give it a bit more than I typically would because this bread is gonna be a thicker, kind of heavier bread. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and put the toast right in there. Hear the sizzle. And I'm gonna actually use a weight to hold that bread in place. It likes to bow up and then the center won't get toasted, and that's where all that garlic freshness is. So I want to make sure the entire face of it is toasted. Okay, so now we've toasted one side of the bread. Let's take a look. Oh, that looks nice and golden. So what I'm gonna do is pull these out, throw a little bit more oil in because we gotta toast both sides. Make a good foundation for that mustard. So we're gonna put these back down. Hear that sizzle? That's a good sizzle. Make sure you get that oil everywhere though. There we go. Okay, and I'm gonna put the weight back on it just for a few seconds to make sure it keeps that shape. So now that the bread is toasting, and we're gonna watch that really closely, we need to get our awesome sauce because that's what makes the sandwich awesome. So I've even named it awesome sauce, literally, perfect. Now this is a wet mustard. I've made it more runny. And this is 12 hours later, right? We cut out all the drinking for you guys. And because it's that runny, I'm going to actually use a brush to brush it onto the bread. And then that's why we're toasting both sides of the bread. We want to make sure that it doesn't get soggy. It's actually just coating it. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to bring this on over to the stove. Okay, that has been a second. We're going to just put this mustard right on. See how if we had not toasted both sides, this would have soaked into the bread, which is not a bad thing, but we're looking for it to support a lot of different kinds of meat. So we want to make sure it has a sturdy foundation. That looks great. Smells great too. Oh my gosh, it smells amazing. Okay, and right away, I'm gonna go ahead and put that cheese on, which was on our cutting board. Now I'm using a little bit of pepper jack and a little bit of cheddar. That looks great. Okay, I'm gonna make sure this is on low because I want the cheese to kind of adhere to the bread, but I don't want the bread to burn on the bottom side. Okay, we're gonna start stacking that meat right on. We have it over here on our hot plate. Got some ham on both sides. I'm gonna build both sides the same way. Then we've got some bacon. Oh, looks so good. And our pepperoni. Okay, and we're gonna shut this off and move these back to our cutting board. Okay, moving these out of the hot pan as soon as we can onto this beautiful cutting board. That looks perfect. Okay, now that we have that, we're gonna add our last final layer. I prefer pickles in the sandwich. I don't prefer greens in the sandwich. It's totally up to you guys. Because I'm more about the visual aspect of eating, I love when a plate looks pretty. I'm gonna go ahead and put these greens right on the plate. That's gonna give it a bit of a pop. And if I want to add some as I'm eating the sandwich, I absolutely can, because it's my kitchen and it's my creation. So I'm literally just gonna use a full slice of this pickle right on there. Beautiful. And if you wanted to do any final sprinkles of seasoning, maybe you forgot something in the pan, that's okay. You're still making the sandwich. You can put it in there now. Then what I'm gonna do, actually, you know what? I have an extra pickle. I'm just gonna move that over here. Looks good, looks good. And I'm gonna put this half on top of that half. Oh, that looks amazing. It's really tall. So I'm gonna cut it. I'm a big fan of diagonal. I'm gonna hold it down, but not crushing it. And I'm gonna just give it a solid cut down the middle. I lost a little bit of crust, that's okay. And we're gonna go ahead. Look at that stacked sandwich. Ah, that's a Sammie. That's a Sammie if I ever saw. Okay, so we're gonna put the ugly one on the bottom because the crust fell off. And we'll put this one right next to it. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, let's go get our beer battered potatoes because we kind of changed that up as we went, which is fine. And we're going to put these guys, oh, they are real golden. See that color? That's really, really good. We've got beer dripping down the pan still. Love it. I'm just gonna take a huge scoop. We're gonna put it right onto the plate. I like to give it a little shake so we don't have too much beer on the plate. I mean, we are gonna have a beer in our hand as well, so you live your dreams. That looks so good. I might save a few in the pan. We'll save a few for the brothers, you know. Okay, and that is beautiful. So I have one more thing I want to add here, and that is a fresh beer. I mean, if we deserve anything, that's what this is. Here, I can show you the technique as well. So you grab a beer, make sure it's chilled, make sure it's brewed in Jamaica, and you have your bottle opener here. You pop it open, and you enjoy it. This is another episode of Cocktail Cooking with Ember. I'm so glad that you were able to join us again. This is a simple meal. I didn't make dessert this time because I feel like beer can be incorporated into so many things. I'm happy to show you another time. So please enjoy your brewed Jamaican beer, and cheers.